or October Operations Department report by Damon. This looks like
Director Thomas. Yeah, so
this is the first edition Gone with the Wind. Here.
this is a definitely a thick one for the month of October. So it's starting off now, the ops reports with kind of the breakdown of what we see in mobile MMS, so folks can take a look and understand some of what we see in operations, a kind of a look behind the curtain, so to speak. And so the first slide you'll see is leak checks. And thank you, Rebecca. Animations kill me. So you can see that the month of October, there were less requests for check for leak as there were in September. So we're going to see this taper off as we start to get into the wet season. And that's normal, you know, obviously, you know, it's wetter on the ground. People notice things less. Doesn't mean that we're still not out finding leaks and repairing them and replacing services as we can. This next slide.
You know, Damon,
Yeah,
having that option to see what your water use on that new online stuff should help a lot, you know?
right. It does. And reflecting on the AMI presentation at the last
Yeah.
meeting, we in the office being able to kind of just, you know, hear about, hey, can you guys take a look at this? We can jump in and field folks take a look too. I mean, when they're some of the first people that when we have a conversation to say, hey, oh yeah, I already looked in Centrix and yeah, they're using a lot of water. So if,
So you
you
guys
know,
go out, because in the rainy season, like you said, you don't notice them as much,
Right.
but you will using that tool online.
exactly. Yep. And so, yeah, the pink bar graph, service requests by category, you can see check for leak vastly outnumbers the rest. Some distant second and third or miscellaneous. And so that can be any number of things. We get asked, you know, we ask a lot of our folks, so we can ask them any number of random things when it comes to water services, sewer services, and then sewer inspections also up there. And then the next slide, this one is crew. This is the work orders this year by crew. And so you can see, I've had a conversation with a lot of folks about, you know, what's corrective and what's preventative. And you can see that, you know, the mechanics, 263 work orders and the collections crew with 238, the vast majority of those are going to be preventative maintenance work orders. So there's a work order for every single lift station inspection, every single generator inspection. And so both of these crews kind of work in tandem.
Can I ask you,
Yeah,
for next time, these labels down below the green,
yeah.
can you make them darker?
Or just
I'm
put them
sorry.
Make them bold with the same size font
Yeah,
as
'cause-
the crew names.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be really helpful. Well, they may not be able to do font size, but if you
Uh,
bolded it, it might be helpful.
I'll see if I can, this is a
Sorry.
screenshot, but I'll see if I can edit it. Because you're basically looking at my computer screen here. which
Gotcha.
is-
If
but yeah,
not, you can tell us what.
If I can do it,
If
I
you
will do
can,
it.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
I've got pretty good with that Microsoft editor. So we'll see what I can pull off. And so really on this next slide, the orange one too, work orders this year by type. So you can see, you know, cost to serve, emergency repair, inspection, leak repair. There's a whole gamut of different categories here, projects. So you can kind of at a glance, take a look at and see what our crews have been working on. And then this next one is USA's underground service alerts continue to have a heavy presence out in the field. Our guys spend a lot of time. Lately, it's been responding to the lack of underground service alerts. So we might see crews calling us and saying, hey, we need you guys to locate X, Y, and Z. Where have you been? And we're like, there's no notification. You haven't issued an underground service alert. You haven't requested us to come out. And so a lot of what we understand is there's somebody in an office that's issuing underground service alerts, and it can often be for there can be a mistake with the address, or there's a disconnect between their folks in the field and their folks in the office, and it creates a lot of extra work for our guys.
Sure.
And so, you know, while, you know, I want to acknowledge the good work that PG&E is doing when it comes to undergrounding their infrastructure, but with that also comes a lot of work for our staff.
Damon, if you could go back to the work orders this year by type. in the middle of those bars, it says new installed. Am I to understand that we only, installed 24 new meters district-wide?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the new service lateral replacements, we're tracking those differently. And so the ultimate goal for mobile MMS is when you look at MMS from a GIS based level, you can see, a little meter line, little blue line for a water line. That over time, as our utility crew replaces those services, we want to change that code. So you can, hover over a system or a service area and then see at a glance what they've truly replaced. So we can, and really for us, what's beneficial is when you know that they've replaced a service line, you also know that they've backfilled it with, an approved material rather than native or rock or whatnot. And that's really the peace of mind that we get out of that is,
Are those new installs or just meter replacements, like brand new service? That's
so this
the
would be
new
like a
install
new,
this?
this would be like a new installation for a new account. So.
Okay,
new
perfect. So
install, yeah.
first time customer, if you. will.
Right. And so then there's a whole other category of new service lateral, essentially a replacement, but it's going to be a brand new service lateral. And that's what I was referring to when I was talking about.
Do you have, and I don't know if this is the right forum to ask, do you on the operations crew say, okay, we expect to have X amount of new connections this year and you make sure you have all your stuff in line for it? Or you just have X amount of stuff on hand or?
Well, so
Do you guys
we,
talk about that?
yeah, we talk about that with customer service. We talk about that with engineering to try to get an idea of how things are looking, the county, we might have, managers might have a conversation and then supervisors might have a conversation to get an idea of what we can look forward to.
Mhm.
But I can tell you that Mike Crank and works with the supervisors from the different departments out in the field to really measure how fast and how quickly they're going through material to make sure that we have material on hand.
So on these 24 new customers, is that this fiscal year or calendar year?
This would be calendar year for MMS, right?
You have a number that you guys, a goal or whatever, for this fiscal year of how many new customers you're gonna have, new connections?
We don't within operations, and I don't think we push any budget considerations up against that either. No,
We have prospects for that subdivision in Valley Springs to bring in 155 new connections
that's right,
soon.
right, yeah.
Uh,
And that what's interesting is those will not necessarily be captured as work for our staff. So it's interesting to, how do you capture that within, you know what I mean? So there's some things that we're gonna have to work through as we incorporate these additional
You know-
connections to our,
Well, if somebody has a new connection, a new meter, wouldn't it always be installed by our staff?
oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Michael, do you think we can get a subject on our finance meeting in December? If you just said 150 new connections coming up, I mean, I'd like to know how many new connections are you projecting?
Yeah, that's usually more of an engineering committee item, but we can.
Well,
we
think
can
about the
talk
revenue though,
through-
right?
Yeah, I mean,
It
it's
should
not.
be in
it-
finance too.
Yeah, it's, yeah, absolutely, we can bring that. to
Thank you.
finance
Yeah,
committee.
okay.
There will be costs associated with that, so it wouldn't be until
I'm-
155 revenue.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as, additional revenue going forward
Hmm.
after, we may have revenue from the connection fee perhaps, but that's usually slotted somewhere else.
Yeah,
But
that,
I'm kind of looking at the regular bi-monthly fee that we'll get.
right, and that's usually not considered net revenue either, that's a cost to serve, and so we're, it helps to have a greater ratepayer base, but it doesn't necessarily reduce.
But it does add to the pot of revenue that we need.
Right, but there's new costs associated with that as well.
All right, diving into the heat maps for leak repair. It's always somewhat difficult to illustrate this because some of the service areas are quite large. So just try to take a very distanced photograph, if you will, of the heat map. So this is the pass. You can see kind of really the Arnold area is the focal point for repair. And then this is copper here. So you can see definitely Poker Flat is bearing the holding the flag for most leak repairs in this service area. This is Jenny. You can see the lower end of Rancho, definitely the source of the most repairs on, this is all for service requests. So this could be service line repair, this could be check pressure, this could be check for leak, any number of those items. So West Point, downtown West Point is holding the candle. And then here's a Copper Cove at a glance, production over consumption. I did the math on a couple of these days and it's around 23% difference, which is pretty darn good for us. And the standard, you're above board at 20% and under. So is that this battery running? Oh, okay, gotcha. So yeah, Copper Cove, next month, I'll highlight a different system for water consumption versus production. So this has really become a helpful tool for our folks in operations. And let's see here. Diving into service line repairs. So, we always have to begin with Rancho Calaveras. This is one in Vista del Lago. It just trying to get, the pictures are a little distorted. I just wanted to try to convey kind of the difficult access that this one had. You've got two services, you got a leak, and then you've got a storm drain pipe in the middle. You have no access. So you've got the vac with the boom out, which is where this, incidentally, somebody was talking about Canaflex earlier. Canaflex is that flexible hose that lives on top of a vac on. And so when it's sucking up debris and rocks, it often will tear over time. It has a lifespan and it needs to be replaced. So this was a 5-hour service line repair simply because we couldn't get a dump truck there. We couldn't get close. And our guys had to just really work from a distance. Milton Road, here's an example of what a service line repair, a failure can do to the asphalt. You guys can see what's going on there. And then interestingly enough, you've got these sleeved services with this aged tap saddle in the image on the right. Kind of hard to see, but those sleeves are somewhat interesting. We found a pocked tough tube service line that lived in sleeves on Baldwin, which is quite interesting. So here's how well our folks clean up the road when all's said and done. Hats off to the guys down in Rancho for that work.
And that's with our machine,
That is, yes,
that asphalt machine that we got.
right. Yep. And then here's one, it's kind of a theme that goes through this month of October is boulders, big old giant rocks. So you can see that kind of spray coming out of the tough tube in the image on the left. And it is below a boulder. That rock is just simply too big for our guys to get out of there. So then they have to come in and put a full circle clamp on that. And then it's just got to live to fight another day. Maybe we can put a bottle jack under the boulders and, pour some concrete. I don't know. Just, but you definitely got to be careful when it comes to working next to something like that. Here's a representation of the kind of pressure that we can see down at Rancho Calaveras on a service line failure.
So that boulder is not an example of your bona fide fill.
It's not. No, when I would see that one on a map, I would say that's not a good one. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, for sure. High pressure is the norm down in the lower end of Rancho. Many of our service areas, actually. Here's some picture of tap saddle replacement on Jenny Lind Road. You can see image on the right with some tools and all kinds of different pieces of tough tube with repair clamps and the guys can take kind of, and this happens all over our different service areas. They can take what was really a mess and really clean it up so that you see the image on the right, which is a tap and a manifold, do a couple different meter sets.
Hey, Damon,
Yeah.
on the previous page, I'm seeing how dirty the guys' pants get. So
Yeah.
are those uniforms? So a uniform company cleans them or do the guys have to do it?
We have a uniform company.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And the pants are the uniform too.
Yes.
What a
thank-
mess.
Right.
But,
Yeah. Yeah. Some guys like to clean them themselves though, but hey.
Yeah.
But yes. So tap saddle replacement, Jenny Lind Road, the image on the right is kind of, all this work, down in this hole next to this main, next to this meter set, and then backfilled and cleaned up and you really don't really know. It's kind of hard to tell that there was even something going on there. So hats off to the guy.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Let's shoot it.
This is a really interesting one. So guys were gonna go repair a service line or repair a line, and they end up finding a buried valve. It's about what 14, or it's like almost 3 feet deep.
Wow.
And so this thing's been living there for quite some time, not on any map. And so, you know, this is kind of an acknowledgement of every single day, somebody's gonna have to kind of redirect and do something a little bit different. You thought you were gonna go fix a service line, where you're also gonna open up and expose a valve and put a G5 lid on top, and so we can find it in the future. And so that's what the guys did. Hats off to them. So there you go. The valve's all said and done. Everything's back to normal. That was a wild one.
Just like that.
Yeah. So this is the image on the left here on the main brake repair at Hart Vixen. This is one
How did
just,
how did how do you think that happened? Is that a newly paved area, someone brought in fill and paved, is that in the middle of a cul-de-sac or something?
it is in a cul-de-sac, yeah, or in a court. So this could, any number of things could have happened, but I think, yes. Somebody came in, was gonna do roadway improvements, might not necessarily have even discussed that with CCWD some years ago. And then they backfilled over the top of this valve, and the valve perhaps was shutting off, maybe isolating a small section of that court. And then in the future, you're gonna go do some more work. Hey, we're gonna go and we're gonna put some chip seal on this thing. We're gonna put some more asphalt on top, and over the years, because that looks like a quite old G5 too, that train.
How deep is that?
Yeah. It's almost 3 feet deep when you look at that tape. I think it's 34 inches right there.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
It's
quite
been there a while.
been there a while, right? Yeah, that was a really interesting, yeah, interesting. So this one, main brake repair on Hart Vixen, the image on the left, you can see two crews working. So the crew in the foreground is our crew working on this 8-inch main brake. And the crew behind them is the DA Wood crew working on the A to B transmission pipeline project. And so this is about, I don't know, 6 or 7 o'clock at night. As DA Wood is starting to wrap up, our guys are starting to open the ground to fix this main, and it was quite a work effort. The image on the right shows you the backfill that Russ was just acknowledging that would not allow us to sleep well at night. And that was what's living on top of this water main.
Wow.
So you can see the image on the left here is the main in situ. So we've pulled all those boulders out, cut the asphalt, exposed it, sucked out all the material with that vac on and the Canaflex. And that was the broken main. And then when you pull it out, the image on the right, because it was at a bell, you can see that bottom connection to the bell. You can see that kind of break, which is kind of an unusual break on a piece of AC like that. So,
Great tune.
you know, when you consider the amount of debris and rock that was living on top of that thing and the amount of pressure that it was under with, you know, heavy equipment driving on top of it, moving those rocks around, jackhammers, you can see that it was almost like a pressure break. And that was shooting out close to 1 million gallons of water going down Hart Vixen for about 40 minutes, because the challenge with Hart Vixen is there's 3 different water mains in the road. So one of them is a pump line, one of them is a line of water being conveyed from the treatment plant to our main storage tank. So you can't just go hit a couple valves and shut it off. You need to taste test what's going to shut it off effectively. And so it took a while. And so there's the main install, the new install, and there's the material on the right. Incidentally, the crews threw all that in the back of a pickup truck by hand, because it was just, this site was too constrained to get folks over there. And then this is the compacting the material
Good stuff.
post repair. So moving up to Ebbets Pass, you can see that the Ebbets Pass guys are really effective at being exacting. So you can see, want to highlight that the tip on that VACON pickup tube on the left is to keep these guys safe from electrical. And this image on the right, you can see that spray coming out of the water service. But then you can also, it's kind of hard to see here, but there's an electrical line in the ground in there too. So in the image on the left, you can see there's this apparatus that will actually shut the water off on our service line. It's that square box at the top of your image, and they've actually cut the service. And then the image down in the left, you can see that electrical line still in the ground. So our guys have to be super cautious in Copper and in Ebbets Pass when they're fixing service lines to be safe around this electrical. It's just all over the place. So here's Chapel of the Pines. You can see the accuracy with which our guys located this repair. You can see the USA marks. And then The image on the right looks like the repair clamp's giving up the ghost, it's starting to spray out the outside. So it's replaced that section. And look at that, back in business. So they located it right where it was. And then the image on the right shows you the backfill of the temporary asphalt and everybody heading out. This is Navajo Drive, another example of really exacting excavation for repair. Gives you an idea of some of the conditions that guys work in. Look at this. This is another rock. So this isn't even in Rancho. This is up on Evans Pass. You've got boulders living on top of service line.
Oh,
And so, yeah, guys just do a fabulous job. You can see the image on the left, pre-boulder, and the image on the right, post-boulder. And those aren't just water lines. You got some more, looks like you got telecom in there and electrical. So there's a lot going on in that hole right there. Hats off to the guys for doing great work.
Absolutely.
Here you go. This is a great one. No PG&E, yet looks like there's PG&E down in there. I mean, so that's kind of an example of some of the things that our guys have to contend with.
Wow.
Really,
Interesting.
testament to them. They're able to backfill that. It's just a, what is it? A 2.5 by 2.5 square in the ground, and they're in and out of there. Here's a corpse stop replacement on Crystal Way. Another example of the great work the guys do, really clean, in and out of there. And then system flushing at Sheep Ranch. So the fire system at Sheep Ranch, there's 2 actual conventional fire hydrants. The rest are these, what we call standpipes, and they don't have a lot of pressure behind them. So this is one of those challenges that Michael is always discussing with folks in Sacramento about how do we acknowledge fire protection, water quality, and the challenges around both for rural communities. Routine work up on the pass. This is work to inhibit erosion around our meter box sets. So we're going to put some 2x6s, keep the bank from falling off. And so we can put meter boxes in and customers are happy and we don't have material falling off the embankment. Some more routine work on the pass, meter sets and PRV, pressure inspections and adjustments of CRDs, CRLs. This is a 2-inch repair on the water line at the West Point Waste Plant. So this is part of the West Point Wilseyville Consolidation Project, pouring a kicker. I don't know if you've all seen what a kicker looks like. Some of them are prettier than others. Some of them we precast. Hats off to the guys up from past, but this is pouring a kicker in the image on the right. And then, so this is a great one. Sometimes we just get interesting phone calls. This one was, hey guys, hey Damon, you guys own Wilson Lake? Yes, we do. Well, there's a truck in Wilson Lake and it's not stolen. And the owner has actually passed away. So,
Yeah, that was on the.
From being in this
somewhere, wasn't
accident?
it?
it might have been.
Yeah.
Actually using the tow truck to get it out.
Huh?
So
They left it there.
So we called environmental health. Environmental health said, as long as you can get that out safely and there's no leakage, you're good to go. And so that's what we did. And hats off to the guys over in West Point for getting this one done quickly. This was it. We found out about it in the morning and 2 hours later it was out of Wilson.
How long did it take you to get stickers on the door?
Not very long at all, actually.
It's in the
Yeah.
fleet now.
It's a nice pickup. Yeah. Yeah. And so here, the finish off the Thule removal project with our construction crews, some before and after
Amazing.
snaps. So there are currently, the image on the right is what White Pines looks like. It's starting to fill back up. So Gabriel was in here earlier talking about that. We've gained about a foot since we completed the cleaning effort. So we can anticipate White Pines filling up rather quickly now. Hats off to the construction crew. They always do fabulous work. It looks like even more of a park than it is nowadays.
Look how beautiful and clean.
And so I don't know if you guys noticed, but our electrical crew, they just plow through repairs.
How nice.
And so there's like 60, 70, yeah.
Yeah.
And so here's an example of the great work they do with analytical equipment installation. Really clean, like Director Sakata says, exacting. They do a great job. These are turbidimeters at West Point. And then this is telemetry. We had a lot of issues with telemetry district wide. So this is the troubleshoot on telemetry, that some images of that effort. And then here's the bucket truck in action. You can see our electrician, Craig Canepa, in the image on the left, doing some tree trimming so that we can improve telecom for our infrastructure. Wiring has a lifespan as well. So this is one of our effluent pumps at Copper. This is the wiring just basically failed. And so our guys cut all these melted terminals up and then installed new ones and wired it back up. We were back in action. And then hats off to the chili cook-off champion. Hands meeting. He's won, I think, twice. Oh, was it back?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, try that chili.
So he makes a mean pot of chili.
Nice.
No. Hey,
Nice,
Damon.
Damon.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Damon.
what you're showing us, Damon, is, when they go out on a trouble call, and they open up that box, they have no idea
That's right.
what they're going to be confronting.
That's right.
So that they have to be, super cautious for their safety,
Right.
but then the analysis comes in and so that's. And
There's
I
some
said, that-
psychology in that. Absolutely. Yeah. Troubleshooting, especially, if you get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's an emergency, or there's an alarm going off at a facility and you're opening that box and you don't know what it is you're going to find. Right.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
for sure.
Yeah, and so my hat's off.
Thank
I don't have a hat, but,
Thank you. I get you.
Okay, do we have,
Good job.
Thank you.
thanks, David.
Nice
before you
report.
go away, Damon, do we have any public comment on this report?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hey, Damon, great report and
you.
especially all the nice dashboard items. It's getting to be easier and easier to understand just the challenges that you all face and overcome on a monthly basis. So thank you for putting the extra effort to summarize and make it more visible and easy for us out here that, only see you guys every 2 or 3 weeks to get a handle on it.
Absolutely.
One favor, would it be possible to start reporting on non-revenue water?
Yeah, let me look at that. I think production versus consumption is there, so we should be able to pull something up for a month over month. It might be a delayed reaction, but we could definitely look at that.
Well, you have
Yeah,
that
good.
one,
Yeah,
you have the one about Copper Cove, so.
right. That's what I mean. It might be
Yeah.
just a month behind, kind of. Generally, our production is a month behind also. So,
Well, I think you reported to the state, right, in different categories?
we report water loss annually to the
Yeah,
state, so
that's
it's not a
something
monthly,
that might
yeah,
not be available on a monthly basis, but we do report out on that.
yeah.
Yikes. Okay, well, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be one of our key areas of focus in the coming months is to get that number to go as close to zero as feasibly possible, economically and otherwise. Thank you.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, I see an additional light on PR.
Thank you. Patrick here, Patrick Roy.
Patrick.
Show. Hi, first off, my congratulations to Mr. Davidson on his win. But Damon, your photography skills are incredible and always improving. But 2 questions for you. With
Yes.
actually, it might be more than that. Is there room for expansion on your dashboard analytic tools to create tabs for areas or regions to maybe better identify hotspots for predictive analysis and stuff like that?
Well, so we have the hotspots for service requests, but I don't know if we can, I'm just trying to riff on what we would analyze to predict.
I mean, maybe
Issues.
narrow it down to smaller zones rather than just one big zone, so you could see if there's some particular portion of a zone that's caused that you might anticipate more problems based upon recent
Yeah,
histories
gotcha.
and so forth.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're working on, this is actually an operations and engineering work effort, are to obtain some water meters that we can put in different parts of the distribution system so we can better pinpoint and refine our understanding of the different zones. Yeah. So we're definitely, what you're selling, we're already buying. Yep.
Okay,
We'll
that makes
continue
sense.
to work on that. Yep.
Okay, with the observation that the South Rancho Jenny Lind area is still pretty heavily affected by leaks, and that's been a fairly consistent trend for a long time. I'm just curious, will the A to B pipeline project have any impact on reducing that, or are we still going to have the pressure downstream that's likely causing a substantial percentage of these leaks?
You're going to see significant pressure reductions. A lot of the system that's at the lower end is actually off of the A zone. So we should be able to adjust pressure reducing valves that feed that area differently than we do now, because right now that transmission line is serving a lot, A to B is serving a lot of customers, and it's interconnected to the A zone before it hits B tank. So it should give us improved flexibility on portions of the system past B tank after the project's completed. Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for the answers on that. And to back up quite a ways in the presentation, congratulations on the future acquisition of the water tanker.
Thank you.
Tanker trucks are just too great of an asset to pass up when you have an opportunity and you have the need for them. So good move. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, any other online questions, comments from the board? Damon, you and I talked a little bit yesterday about some items on the claim summary. On what sticks out in my mind is something that you told me about the $4,000 expenditure about training. You have to pay, the district now has to pay $4,000 per person who want to get a new Class A. Can you explain to the board members here what that's all about?
Yeah. So the new requirement for Class A
Excuse me.
certification. Yeah. So a new requirement for Class A certification is 15 hours of behind the wheel training, accompanied by a certified trainer. So in the past, CCWD was able to get in the truck with somebody with a permit and train them up and say, okay, they're ready to go take their test. Now a requirement is that we send folks to class and they receive that training from a certified trainer. That's usually to the tune of about $4,000 per person
Class A.
for a Class A license. Yeah.
And you said earlier that we have 12 or more people that are qualified to drive these tankers and things like that. But didn't you tell me that this new requirement came into effect last January?
I want to say it was year before. It's been 2 years. Yeah.
And how often do they have to get recertified?
Well, so we're certifying new drivers. So as you can imagine, one of the really valuable skills to have as a class, or endorsements to have as a Class A when you're applying for a job at CCWD these days. So what we're doing with that training is training up our existing staff. So there's certain jobs that require you to have a Class A. Folks moved into that job internally, promoted to this job, promoted to this distribution job, for example. They need to get that Class A, then we send them that training. So as we look at future hires, it's really kind of a valuable metric, if you will, to have a Class A when you're applying for a job at CCWD.
But the reason I bring it up is that we don't have an opportunity to shine a light as often as we should on the I don't know, the sudden changing landscape of state requirements that we just have to fund out of ratepayers' rates. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's just keeps going on and on and on.
It does.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your report. I always
Thank you.
enjoy
Thank
looking at that. One final question. What is the capacity of soil containment on a VACCON truck? It's got to be what, a yard and a half?
16 yard. So the VACCON's 9 yards, the Gap Vax is 12 yards, that the tank is back.
So you just drive down the road and dump it then?
Yeah, well, that becomes challenging. So our sites, classification of that soil is very challenging. You can imagine.
Yeah.
So sometimes, depending on where you're at, if somebody has to dump the vac, you can go take a nap. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning, get some rest because they're going to be a while. You know what I mean? If you're out in Timbuktu.
Well, I never thought about that. You have a sewer leak and you suck it out. You have to take it.
Well, now that.
You have to take it to, yeah, you have to take, have to take it to Kettleman
Yeah,
City?
no, we take it to our treatment facilities.
Oh,
Yeah, take it.
Yeah, we take it to the intake of our waste plants. Yeah. So that's what I mean. You could be quite a distance away from a facility. Yeah, yeah. Challenging.
I've got a place on my ranch. You could just, I'll give you the gate code.
Right?
Okay.
And I'm usually very appreciative and grateful for your reports, but I do have to say this time around, I appreciate you acknowledging the chili cook-off winner, although you stole my thunder a little
Sorry.
bit. But you somehow missed the costume contest winner and the
Oh, I
picture that should have been included in the presentation.
Well, so
We're gonna have to bring that back.
That's,
that one is a tough one
We're gonna
because
have
I
to
don't
bring that one
always
back.
know if everyone in costume wants me to. Because I have some great costume photographs.
I
but
believe
not
it's
always
public
too
record
sure.
now, so. Yeah, I believe it's
You
public.
know,
record
I
now,
mean,
so
you know what, Michael, you're right.
We'll bring it back. We'll bring it back.
We'll bring it. For
I
sure.
hope so. Yeah.
I imagine there's a video. we could-
And second and third place as well.
All right.
Spoiler alert, that person is in the room right now.
Oh.
Congratulations. You get a trophy? Nice.
Okay,